Today we have a special guest. Jason is a father, husband, and a dad. He was in a similar situation as me, but he has now found love again and has the most beautiful family I have known. Thank you for joining me today, Jason. And
thanks for having me.
And a few words about you.
Few words about me. I guess I'm, as Prashant mentioned, I'm a father, husband. I never actually thought that I would have kids, but I actually have a half-year-old that really brings joy to my life, really. And to be honest, I didn't think I'd have that. So yeah.
Since we are talking about a loss, we both have lost our loved ones, and I want to be respectful, and I don't want to discuss things that you are not comfortable with. And if you do think that this is too much, you can always ask me to stop, and then I would appreciate you telling me this one, and then I would not get into the details of what we want to talk about on that particular subject. If you can explain how you lost your partner and what were the emotions during the period, it would be great. I think a lot of people would understand this because there are a lot of people who lose their partners, right? And it's very important that we talk about it openly at times and help others journey make easier.
100%. So for myself, back in 2012, I came home one Friday night to find my wife. She had decided that it was time for her to end her own life, and I guess for me it was very challenging because everything seemed fine. Got home that Friday night and found her.
That is a bit hard, I've lost certain family members in my family who have ended their life because it was too much for them. It's one of the things that we can never find out why.
No, but I guess for her, leading up to it, she did struggle with depression, and I think in the end she just finally decided that the world would actually be better off without her, which wasn't true, but that was her choice.
Yes, we all make choices sometimes. So immediately after she passed away, what was your immediate reaction? How was it for you now?
I think I was very numb, and the whole time, actually, probably for a good sort of 2 to 4 weeks, just really felt like a bit of a blur. I obviously had a lot of support, and I know we'll talk about that a bit later on as well. But for myself, I sort of went through a period of questioning what had happened. She seemed to have been doing so much better up to that point, and obviously, looking in hindsight, I know why. It's because she'd made that decision and she was at peace with it. But for me, it was all around, well, why has it happened? What did I do wrong? What did I miss? And a little bit of blame. But I then very quickly sort of got to a point where I realized that it wasn't my fault. It wasn't me who did it or anything like that. And that I had to deal with it. It was her choice, and unfortunately, I had part in it, in that I had to sort of be able to pick myself up and carry on. But I guess that's probably the main side of it.
Yes, when I was going through similar stuff, somebody told me, I don't know, it's our karma to die, and it's your karma to deal with it.
To deal with it,
yeah. It's not that something we have done, and that's the reason why they have lost their life. It's something they have been. Yeah, it's
yes.
It is.
It was her struggle. It wasn't about me.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about friends and communities that helped you during this period, right? Do you want to expand on that? How did they help you to get through grief? So let's talk about community and friends, because I think having that social infrastructure helps us to move forward in life. But as a person, I was also very conscious that I don't want to burden my friends anymore because they have their own life and they have their own challenges to deal with. And I don't want to be an additional problem to them. I was very conscious about it. Yes. What was your thoughts?
For me, it was very similar. I must admit, I was very lucky in that I did have actually an amazing support network that kind of just grew up around me, which was really nice to see. When I grew up, it was very similar. Guys had to hide their emotions. You're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to, show too much emotion, and you've just got to sort of, get on with it. And that sort of obviously stuck with me quite a bit. So I guess to be honest, I don't think there was probably only my parents and maybe my dog that saw me cry when I was going through everything. I don't actually recall crying in front of any of my friends or anything like that. I openly do today. Like I'm a lot more comfortable with it. So I might actually do it now. But no, look, I think as you say, I was very lucky in that I had amazing friends that sort of rallied around me. My family who were overseas flew over immediately. Actually, the day that it happened, I was whisked away by some good friends who they were the reason why I ended up moving to Australia, and so the work colleagues as well. And they sort of took me in for a while so that I wouldn't be alone. And then when my parents got here, I went back to the house, and it was the first time that I'd gone. This is where I struggle. It was the first time that I'd been back, and I forced myself to face it. But as I say, my parents were there. I had Misha, my little miniature schnauzer, and all of the friends were just always there. They made sure that I was never alone. I had people coming in, bringing food, so that they wanted to make sure that I didn't have to worry about cooking and cleaning and all those sorts of things, which was, for me, it was absolutely phenomenal. I think I had about 2 weeks off of work where I just kind of tried to process through everything and try to sort of make sense of it for myself. But then I very quickly got to a point where I didn't want to just sit anymore. And I then just threw myself back into work and just sort of started moving forward, really.
Yes, this is a very interesting thing because you said probably the working culture in South Africa and India is pretty similar, I would say.
I'd agree, yeah.
And we would take this as a coping mechanism. If there could be other things we could do, but we would just straight back get into work because that's how our minds are trained. If you keep
yourself busy, you won't think about it.
Yes, that's the point. But it also means that you are putting away things that you want to deal with it now, rather than just building it up. That's exactly what happened with me. When she died, we took her from here to India, and then we did all the rituals. The Indian rituals. It's a painful process. That's the most painful process for me. Like you have to do certain things that you don't agree to it because you don't believe in it. And then immediately after 2 weeks, I'm back to work, and people are like, "Why are you back to work?" I'm like, "What am I supposed to do now?"
Exactly. Yeah, and everyone's always on eggshells around you, and that because no one ever knows what to say. But what I felt is just be yourself. That's what I needed. I didn't need someone to be on eggshells around me to sort of shelter me from a whole bunch of things. Just carry on. It is a part of life. As you said early on, people lose people every day. You've got to keep moving. If you want to focus on the good things and the good times you had and be able to relive some of those good experiences. But in the moment, you just, for me, I was numb and I just wanted to keep moving forward. Because if I stopped, I felt like I would break down.
Yeah, that's exactly. We wanted something to hang on to so that we could focus our energy into.
That's right. You've got something to channel your energy at, and you can have energy.
Yes, that is very correct. And a couple of interesting points there. Yes. Yeah, and also I started avoiding this is after she passed away. I started avoiding going to any birthday parties or or marriages or any weddings, for the matter of fact, because as you said, they do not know how to treat you.
Yeah.
And in my family, it's even worse. I'm the second widower. My elder sister, she lost her husband to suicide, and their marriage lasted only for a week. And the amount of emotions she went through, it took a toll on her for almost 6-7 years. She didn't see anybody. It was like really hard because she got married, but the person who died, he had his own issues from the past, and there's nothing she did was wrong. So and this was in their in the beginning of the relationship as well. She would constantly say, if you don't see me, I'm just going to commit suicide. If you don't do this, I'm going to commit suicide. And then she didn't have an option to move out of the relationship. And then once she no longer could take it out, she said, let's take a break. And this is after marriage. Let's take a break and just, because the marriage has happened, whatever you wanted has happened, just take a break, live in the same house, but just take a break a little bit.
Yeah.
But then he had his own thoughts, and and then so I'm the second. So I have seen her presence during the wedding and how people really don't know how to react to.
Yeah.
And so I started avoiding all this thing. So there is an interesting quote in Tamil. It means virundum marundum moondru nalaike. It means who wants to host you or give you, if you're a guest to somebody one house, you will be fed only for 3 days, and even if you're sick, you will be given medicine for 3 days out of compassion and other things. So once this is all over, once your friends, you went back to work, what was life in that part? Because there's a part where they will get back to their life, and you will be alone, and I know that part because I've been there. So how did you spend those time, and what are the things that you did to keep yourself busy other than work, or you were just
That's actually a very good point, because for everyone else, eventually normal life comes, it returns a lot quicker for them, whereas for us, we living with it every day. For me, I was very lucky that I had, as I said, Misha, my miniature schnauzer, and I really sort of focused in on her. I took her for lots of walks. I was always doing stuff with her. I kept myself busy with preparing all my meals for the week and things like that. So big cooking sprees, and then sort of being able to sort of keep stuff for the week. I also went back into looking at gaming and things like that, because it was something that, as you say, I could do by myself. I used to really love doing it when I was younger as well. Built myself a gaming PC. It's the first time I've done that in many, many years. And started exercising a lot more, because I looked at myself, and I guess one of the realizations that I had is that I needed to be happy with myself moving forward. So to get myself out of it, I needed to be able to do things that I felt happy with. So I started exercising more. I had a lot of time to do that. So, I went to the gym a lot, natural endorphins. So that obviously helps as well. Became a little bit more active, as I said, with the dog, taking her out a lot more, going on a lot more walks with her. And then, at night I'd sit and either watch TV or play computer games and things like that. Rediscovered a few movies from my youth. So went through things like really terrible B-grade horror movies and things like that I would never have watched, or it was a long time ago that I watched them. So I just did a whole bunch of things for myself. Got myself a lightsaber because I enjoyed. I love Star Wars, and so I instead of having to worry about anyone or anything else, I just kind of focused in on myself for a while. I was still very lucky because there were a few key people, some of my very close friends, that still came around even months later. One of the things that I did decide is that I wasn't going to be a passenger to life anymore. because up until then, I really had been. When something came up, I'd always be like, oh, I know, it's too much of an effort to go or something like that. So I'd say no to a lot of things. So I sort of came to a realization that I wanted to go travel. So I wanted to do one international destination a year. I've kind of gotten that right, but it's changed a lot since we've had Emily as well. Because I actually really enjoy seeing new places, seeing new things. And the other thing as well is that I swore to myself that I'd stop saying no to everything. And it really opened up my life a lot more and opened me up to more possibilities. It's one of the reasons why I ended up meeting Nikki again and sort of getting to see her. So I suppose that was it. Like I did have lots of points where there's reminders and things like that. So I'd go backwards and internalize things and sort of hold things in again. But I'd realize it and I'd then sort of start trying to open myself up again. So I suppose that's how I did it.
Yeah, I think I would also relate to something similar because that's the time I spent a lot of money. Because on things that this is where the realization came later after spending.
Things you don't need.
Yes, things you don't need.
You've always gone, oh, that would be pretty cool to have that. Now there's nothing, no reason. And for me especially, unlike yourself, I had a dog. That was the only commitment I had.
Yes.
I didn't own a house. I didn't have anything like that. So I had disposable income. And you tend to spend it way quicker than what you would have under normal circumstances.
Yes.
So not that I ever got myself into trouble by doing it, but I allowed myself to do some of the things that I normally wouldn't have done, where I would have thought, I should probably rather save instead of do this.
Yes, that's something I've learned as well, lavishing myself with things that I didn't know. But I also had some amount of money with me as my savings and whatever came out part of this one, but it's not a huge money. But then I also wanted to buy a house. The problem is, because we did not insure for a large sum, it wasn't too much money, right? But then I took the money and then I wanted to go to the bank and then asked all these things, right? Because I'm a single income holder with a single child, my eligibility, the amount of loan that they would approve was far less, and I wouldn't be able to afford anything within Sydney. That's how much less it was, even though, right? Because they have seen that I'm a single income holder. I have a son to manage all these things. Yes. So that's when I was like, just fuck it. I'm not going to care about it anymore now. If I can't buy a house, let it be. Yeah. And that's when, and then.
I think for myself, the biggest difference was that I didn't have someone that I had to look after. So for me, I think I had literally enough for a bit of a deposit. But when I was looking for a house, I ended up looking further and further away from the city because it was the only way I could afford something. So I eventually found something that went for much lower than what the market was sort of running at the time, and was lucky enough to get in then. But yeah, same sort of situation. I had a little bit of a deposit, could just make it, but I didn't have the added.
Yeah. And I think with your story, it happened much earlier, where the prices hasn't gone crazy. That's
a fair point. Yes.
And we looked into it. I was ready to put a deposit, but the bank weren't ready to do this. And then I was like, we just lost interest. Okay. Did you see a therapist during this period? Because I saw a therapist. And I still see a therapist till today. And we do it like fortnightly, but I'm thinking of going back to weekly again because there's been so much happening at work and just everything has gone. It's a curve, right? It just goes ups and down and ups and down. And
it's a roller coaster.
Yes, it is a roller coaster, definitely. So I think I'm on the downhill now. So that's why I wanted to see her again on a weekly basis to keep myself busy. And I also want to talk about one thing that you said previously before we start continuing on this one. You said you did a lot of workouts. I also found that having something achievable goal while doing a workout helps you move forward, and the day is all smiling, and it helps a lot if you have a commitment for workouts.
Yeah, because it's positive reinforcement, really. So it's something that you can achieve, or you can get a win. And I think with exercise, because of the endorphins and everything as well, it's a bit of a natural high as well. So the combination of the two, I think, works really well.
Yeah, that is correct. So, talking about therapists again. So, Did you see?
I did. I think it was probably would have been, I think, about a month after everything happened. What I did do though, because my late wife, she was seeing someone for her depression. So what I did do is shortly after everything happened, I booked an appointment with her, not to go and see her myself, but to sort of run through what had happened and get her opinion on a few things as well. And it was a bit of closure for myself, because she confirmed a lot of the things that I was hoping. I know that sounds bad, but I was hoping might be the case. Like, because I, as I said, I thought I've done something wrong. Something, I should have seen this. I should have, known that something was going on. But she was very surprised at what had happened. She even said that Corinne was doing really well leading up to that, and she even said in her own words that it probably was because she'd made up her mind. So she was at peace with what she was doing, why she was doing it, and everything else as well, which is why things were going well, because she saw an end. So I went and I saw her. She gave me a recommendation to go for someone else, and I saw her for probably a few months, where weekly sessions as well, just giving myself the ability to talk to someone. So as I said, the way I grew up, everything gets held in. You don't talk about these sorts of things. You've got to deal with it yourself. And just having this person that I could, and again, this might sound bad, but I could just talk at someone. I wasn't there to try and, get advice or get anything else. It was literally just getting everything off my chest and being able to talk through how I was feeling, what I was going through. And there was no connection, as you would have if you're talking to a friend or a family member or something like that, because there's no judgment, there's no airs and graces about it. It's just, being able to talk about it and getting constructive input on, things you could be trying, ways of looking at things, those sorts of things, I think helped me a lot. I'd done a lot of self-discovery a few years before, I think going back to sort of 2007. So I knew a lot more about myself. I knew a lot more about ways and behaviors that I had. So I had a few things that I could use to help move me through difficult times. But seeing her, she gave me extra ones, reinforced a few that I had. And just, as I said, I think the biggest thing for me was the ability to be able to talk to someone openly and not have any judgment or there's no hidden agendas or anything, or no having to worry about what you're saying, how you're saying it, because they've got history with that person as well. I think that was probably the most important thing for me. And it really helped.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, for me, what happened was I did not see them immediately, because being me, I always thought I'm the strong one.
Yeah.
But I think for nearly about 2 years, I did not see or talk to anybody, because I always thought I can handle this. I've handled a lot of things, I can handle it. But there's a point where it came that I could no longer deal with it, because everything was falling apart. There was a lot of guilt.
Yes.
The guilt, and I would justify myself that no, I'm not doing enough for Karthik. Those sort of guilts were very common thing in my case, and I'm not spending too much time with Karthik. I'm not cooking regularly for Karthik, and I'm ordering food for Karthik. But a lot of the things, even though I was doing, I just felt that I'm not doing enough. Yeah. And then one of the things she mentioned about is kids remember differently. What you think is important for a child might not remember that. what he would remember is all the playful times he had with you. So that she brought all of this into my senses, and the guilt started going away. And then I've also got a bit lazy now because of that. But I do try. I mean, it does come back again. When I get too much lazy and then I'm not doing something. But I'm okay with it. I don't fret about it. I don't take it too much to my heart. It's okay. If I can't cook, let me order it. That's okay. That's how I deal with it these days.
You need a break every now and again as well. And to be honest, I mean, I see all the things that you do with Kartik, and it's more than most parents I know. So don't be so hard on yourself.
Sure. And the other thing I also wanted is just a person to talk without. See, the problem. I think even though you come from South Africa, you're a Dutch. I think.
I'm English South African, but from German background.
German background. So
almost as bad.
Yes. So I think I can draw some similarities between the Indian culture and this thing, because in our country what they say is talk to a friend or talk to a family, but what they are not thinking about is you are also overloading him with your thoughts, which is totally unnecessary for another person, right?
And they don't have that training on how to deal with it, how to handle that on their side, and still be useful and helpful for you. So
that's why I decided, okay, enough is enough. Let me go talk to a professional who can guide me. I mean, most of them is just talking,
Yeah.
And the other thing I found out about therapy is hard. It's a lot of work you have to put in.
Correct.
Like they would tell you something. It's up to you at the end of the day that whether you want to follow the thing or not.
Yes.
That was.
You get out what you put in.
Yes. So, that's something I found out about as well. So anything else you want to cover about all of this, the grief and everything, and then we can move on to the next part of your life?
No, I think that covers it quite nicely, actually.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about Nikki. Okay. Tell me something about Nikki and what sort of difference does she make in your life? Because, I mean, every time I meet Nikki, I mean, she's always happy. Makes us, I don't know. What will I do without Nikki as well? She's really wonderful in a lot of ways. I think she understands me because she has seen you go through some of this, right? So I think I will ever be thankful to Nikki in the first place and to you. And so let's talk about the happy side now.
The happy side. Look, I suppose I was lucky in that I met her quite a while. Yeah.
Sorry. Oh my.
Yeah, that would have been bad. All right, so I met her back in 2007. So that was it when I first met Nikki. And to be honest, I'll never forget it, because actually I went in to meet a friend who she was working for, and I was standing behind Nikki, just waiting for her to finish doing what she was doing. She was busy with something on the computer, and she obviously didn't know I was there. And she had probably one of the biggest frights in her life when she realized I was there. And I just sort of looked at her and said, "Oh, is Pete here?" And she was like, "No." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And off I went. So that was the first time I actually met her. We got to be friends. I think she was probably more friends with Corinne, my late wife, than she was with me. And we didn't sort of see each other for quite some time after that as well. Then after everything happened, and as I said, I started getting out there more. I started actually saying yes to things. Friends would invite me out to stuff, so I'd go and do it. And I reconnected with Nikki through that. And we just kind of went from strength to strength. And it was nice just having someone who, as you say, is so bubbly, so energetic. She's become my rock. I don't think that I would be where I am today if it wasn't for her, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah. That's good to hear. That puts. Yes, I think there are some people who would walk away. I don't want to deal with this, and there are people who would stay with you, and though you are dealing most of the things with yourself, they would just support you. I mean, we are not going to take it on them,
No.
our emotions, and I believe you also put on all the hard work before meeting her, where you wanted to be happy yourself before
Yes.
another person comes into.
Yeah. You got to be happy with yourself before you can be happy with someone else. Yes, that's very true. I guess when Nikki and I first got together, neither of us ever thought we'd have kids, and we were happy just doing our thing, being just, I wouldn't say single, but being a couple that could just go out and do things. Right, we'd travel, we'd do whatever. We only had the dog to worry about, and then one day, biological clocks kicked in, and Nikki looked at me and said, "Yep, we got to have a kid." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And for as challenging and as difficult as Emily can be at times, she's absolutely gold. She's one of the sweetest, kindest people. For someone so small, she's got such a vibrant personality. Like, she's not always outgoing and everything like that, but she's always there to help everyone. She's always there to support everyone, and she's just so kind and so helpful. And as I said, for as difficult as she is, she's probably one of the easier kids out of all of the people.
I would argue on that. I have the best one.
Well, I think most parents would probably say that. But that's what I say. Like, she can be
I agree.
She can be a pain, but
yes,
she's
very sweet. There's no doubt.
I can't see how like she brings us so much joy as well.
Yes, yes, kids does. In a way, they also help us overcome some of our bad days.
They cause a lot of them when they whinge and complain, but if you, I think just how innocent and how simple things are for them. I think, like, I've caught myself often sitting there thinking, how would she think about it? Like, what would she do in this situation? How would she react to this? Because it makes life so much easier. We tend to overthink everything and overcomplicate everything. Where kids, it's like, oh yeah, we can just run around and do whatever we want. Do a nudie run if you want to. We'd get arrested, but that's a different story. So I think that's really good, being able to have that influence in our lives, but you've got to actually listen to it as well.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. I mean, you can blame it on the society for our innocence being gone to an extent. It's not that. It's just we have more responsibilities at this point in time. That's what I think. But life can be simple. You can just watch TV, just sit, read something, not worry about many things, and you don't have to go out. You can save money. You can keep it as simple as that. Okay. But I think we complicate ourselves to some extent, and
I think it's a lot of the time. It's what you were saying before about the expectation. There's so much expectation that we put on ourselves. That's part of what society's done to us. Is there's this perception that you've got to be doing this, you've got to be doing that. Oh, but you're a certain age, you should be married, you should have a good job, you should be doing X, Y, Z. But it's not real. You can't take any of that with you one day. When you die, that's it. It's not like you're going to take your wealth with you or anything like that. You never worry about the things that you've done like that. It's all the things that you haven't done, all of the experiences you haven't had, right? And the things that really sort of resonates for me is the good things that we have done, the things that bring us joy, the things that give us happiness. Those are the things we remember. The human body and the human brain is an amazing thing. It allows us to forget the bad things very easily. Time does heal wounds. You never forget. And you'll never, I don't believe I will ever be 100% over what happened. There's always times in my life where the smallest thing might happen, or I might see something, or I might hear something, and it triggers me, right? And I'm back there all of a sudden. But having all of the good and the positive things in my life, that's what brings me out of it.
Yes.
That's what helps me move forward.
Yes, that's true. Very true. Yes, there are moments which will trigger the past for me as well, but I can't just be stuck there.
No,
It
100%.
just doesn't work that way, and everything falls
It's not
apart.
going to change anything.
Yes.
Being stuck there and and just focusing on that won't change anything. You've got to learn what you can learn from it, but then you need to move forward. You've always, like for me, in my life, I've seen and done weird and wonderful things. With the way that I've grown up and everything in South Africa as well. But it's always about moving forward. You've got to keep just one foot in front of the other. Fake it till you make it. You just keep moving forward. And eventually it's like, oh, actually, this is not so bad. I'm actually enjoying it. And then you can create those happy moments for yourself again.
True. Very true. Okay, I think we have come to the end of our session now, because we talked about the grief, the challenges, and how life moved on from there for you, things that you did during the period, things I did wrong during that period, all of this.
I wouldn't say it's wrong.
I could have spent the money in a better way. That's what I would say.
Sure, true, but it's not wrong. It's just,
yeah, we can still make money.
Well, exactly, yeah.
So yeah, the other point you talked about is just when you die, you're not gonna think about you had a house, you had all those things. You're gonna remember things differently, even when you're in an old age, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
it's life you remember.
Yes.
Not the things you had along the way.
Yes, that is very correct.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for joining me today. And I think it's been a wonderful session. So before I close this session, I want to ask you a different technology question. This is going to lead into my other episode with other people going forward, probably. Where do you stand on AI?
Where do I stand on AI?
Yeah.
That's I feel it's a controversial question.